Even if you think Bitcoin is a complete scam and it's worthless, holding zero is the wrong strategy. So in today's video, I'm going to show you why this is. And this comes down to how the best investors think about making bets. Most people think in black and white, either something works or it doesn't. Bitcoin's a scam or it's not. But that's not actually how the real world works. And we have no way of knowing exactly what's going to happen in the future. So the best investors think like poker players. Poker players know the probabilities for every hand, and this tells them when to either bet, fold, or go all in. And investors don't have exact odds like poker players do, but you can still assign probabilities to investments based off of what you know about it to make smarter decisions. And the tool that's used in finance to do this is called expected value. Expected value combines two things: how much you could lose or win with the probability of each outcome when there's multiple different scenarios that you're evaluating. And this helps you decide whether a bet is worth taking. So for example, let's say we flip a coin and there's two possible outcomes. If it's heads, I pay you $20. If it's tails, you pay me $10. Each outcome has a 50% probability, so 50% times $20 is $10. Then you take 50% times negative $10, and that equals negative 5. Add them together, and the positive value is $5 of expected value. So even though you lose half the flips, this is still a bet that you should take every time. Expected value doesn't tell you exactly what's going to happen on the next flip. It tells you what decision to make when you're faced with uncertainty. This is the same reason that you pay for home insurance. It's not because you think your house is going to burn down, but because the payoff, if it does, far exceeds what you pay in monthly premiums. This means that even if you think an investment has a low probability of success, if the potential payoff is high enough, it can still make sense to own it. And you can protect yourself with a smaller position size, so if it fails, your downside is small, but if it succeeds, your upside is a lot higher. But what's the best way you can go about finding these opportunities? Think about the industry that you work in. What do you see in your day-to-day at work that someone on the outside would miss? For example, let's use an airline pilot. To most passengers, they're just up in the cockpit flying the plane. But the pilot knows how busy the routes are, how many flights get delayed, whether the company is hiring or laying off, and how close we are to self-flying planes. This asymmetry exists in every industry between what insiders understand and what most people see. In investing, gaps like this create opportunities, but most investors ignore them. They take symmetric bets that are widely accepted by investment professionals that are the same as everyone else. Examples of these are things like the 60-40 portfolio, diversification with the S&P 500, or a government bond. These have high probability of success, and they return anywhere from 4% with a government bond to 8 to 10% per year in the S&P 500. The payoff you get is proportional to the risk that you're taking. And as a result, the majority of investors get average returns or below average returns. Asymmetric investments are completely different. The potential returns are much higher than the risk that you're taking on the downside. They're harder to identify because they require a contrarian view and a willingness to believe that the market is wrong about something. And venture capital investing is a great example of this. You take small bets on startup companies where you feel like you might have an edge on the information or that industry. And 90% of startups fail globally, but some of the greatest investments of all time have been startup bets that succeeded despite low probability of success. Peter Thiel invested $500K into Facebook in 2004 for 10% of the company before most people understood what social networks even were. At that point, he had already built PayPal and he understood the future opportunity. And Mike Markkula bought a third of Apple for $250K in 1977, while most people thought personal computers were for nerds and hobbyists. He was a former Intel executive that believed computers would eventually be in every home. And both of them became billionaires from taking small, low probability, but extremely high expected value bets. With Bitcoin, your potential loss if you have a small allocation is 100%, but the potential gain on the upside is anywhere from 50 to 200x returns from where we are today. And Bitcoin's not a startup company like Facebook was. It's a new form of money that has the potential to completely disrupt the financial system. And while you may not believe this yourself, let me quickly explain what Bitcoin's potential is if it does succeed. The bull case for Bitcoin can seem like a radical idea. If successful, it'll completely replace the monetary system that we use today. It'll be held by governments, corporations, and individuals as a savings vehicle instead of other assets. Bitcoin investors think that most people still misunderstand what Bitcoin's fundamentals are. This starts with the fact that it has a fixed supply that can't be changed. and it can't be changed because the code is distributed around the world and it's not controlled by one central entity. It was built to be extremely secure and resistant to change, which is why most holders believe that it will be successful. And it has immense value because the fixed supply and global nature make it a better, more accessible savings product for the world. Estimates put future returns at 50x or more from today's prices. Michael Saylor believes this would put annual returns for the next 20 years anywhere from 21% to 37% per year, putting Bitcoin's price between 3 million and 49 million each. And these might seem like crazy numbers, but even the most bullish scenario would have Bitcoin capturing 22% of global wealth. Bitcoin is a competing monetary network, and what this means is for it to succeed, more people have to choose to use it as a store of value instead of other assets to keep driving the price up. If that adoption doesn't happen, Bitcoin either goes to zero or it remains a niche asset that most people don't use. And this is what makes Bitcoin as a bet so asymmetric. The downside is either failure or irrelevance, and the upside is capturing a meaningful portion of global money. So for this example, let's say you have $100,000 today and you put 1% into Bitcoin. If you use the baseline returns of 8% in a 60-40 portfolio after 20 years, your $100,000 turns into $466,096 without any Bitcoin. Then the first outcome is that Bitcoin goes to zero. So in this situation, your portfolio would drop from $466,096 to $461,435. So your maximum downside is 1%. Now, here are 3 scenarios based off of Michael Saylor's projections if Bitcoin succeeds as a global store of value. This chart shows the total value of returns in your portfolio after 20 years for each separate scenario. All 3 scenarios increase your portfolio a lot more than what you would lose if it goes to zero. So you're risking 1% to potentially make anywhere from an extra 5.4% to doubling your entire portfolio in the most bullish outcome. And this is exactly what an asymmetric bet looks like. So now if we bring back the expected value calculation from earlier in the video, we can try to calculate what the expected value looks like based off of different assigned probabilities. So since we don't know which scenario is going to play out, I've assigned these probabilities to each one just as an example. Then we multiply each outcome by its probability, and the expected value is $52,000. And this is a 50% increase to your portfolio's expected return from just a 1% allocation. This is why a small Bitcoin position can make sense even for someone who's skeptical and doesn't believe in where Bitcoin's going long term. But let's say you think the probability that Bitcoin fails is greater than what I had at 50%. Even at a 99% probability of failure, the expected value is still positive. For the 60-40 to be the better choice, you need to be over 95% certain that Bitcoin fails. And your probabilities might be different from the ones I use in the video, but across a wide range of different assumptions, the math still favors owning some, even if it's just a small position. So the question that you can ask yourself here is not whether you think Bitcoin will succeed, but can you be certain that it will fail? Smart money knows what an asymmetric opportunity looks like, and the largest investors in the world are answering this question by buying. And if you want more frameworks like this, I write emails breaking down Bitcoin investment strategy and how you can incorporate it into your financial plan. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down in the description below. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager at $12.5 trillion in assets under management. And since 2024, their Bitcoin ETF now has $100 billion in AUM, and it's their most profitable product. And we've seen other major financial institutions like Morgan Stanley and Fidelity are now recommending anywhere from a 1 to a 5% allocation to clients. And while you may not be getting venture capital prices on Bitcoin today, from their IPO to public markets, Google, Facebook, and eBay all released as asymmetric bets. They had a higher expected return because at that point, the probability of failure was much lower than when early stage investors like Peter Thiel got in. Because once startup investments pass their Series B funding rounds, the risk of failure drops significantly. And from their IPOs to today, all of these companies have returned hundreds of percent to public market investors. And this is where we are today with Bitcoin. And as it gets legitimized on Wall Street, the probability of failure drops and the expected return goes up. And for skeptics, the risk reward setup right now is the best that it's ever been in Bitcoin. So if you want to get to 1%, the easiest way for you to get exposure is either through an exchange or through one of these ETFs. Through an exchange, you're going to pay fees on when you buy or sell it. And then through the ETFs, you pay fees through the expense ratio. Then every year you can revisit your 1% allocation and decide whether you want to raise it or if you're comfortable where you're at. Now, this video wasn't about convincing you that Bitcoin will succeed. It's just about how to think about asymmetric bets when you're investing. Because when these bets do come around, even a small position can change your portfolio returns drastically, and I think it's a good idea to have a position. And the best investors in the world think in bets. They assign probability and allocate capital to be positioned to benefit from outsized returns. And you might not be as early to Bitcoin as Peter Thiel was to Facebook, but you're also not late. And with Bitcoin ETF and bank adoption that we've seen on Wall Street, the window here is closing. This asymmetry won't last forever, and these types of investments don't come around very often. So even if you don't believe in Bitcoin's long-term success, I think the smart move is to own at least 1% because that's all it takes to get started. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Austin, and I'll see you in the next video.